Have you ever heard the saying, truth is stranger than fiction? Well, today's story is a prime example of that. We're diving deep into a bank robbery attempt that sounds like it was scripted for a comedy movie. But I assure you, it really happened. Picture this: a quiet afternoon, a seemingly ordinary bank, and a group of teenagers who thought they had the perfect plan. Their weapon of choice: not a high-powered rifle or an intimidating handgun, but a brightly colored plastic water gun. Yes, you heard that right, a water gun. This unbelievable event took place in a small town that rarely makes headlines. It was a place where everyone knows everyone, and the most exciting thing to happen is the annual county fair. So you can imagine the shock when a group of kids, masks on and everything, burst into the local bank, demanding cash. What makes this story so fascinating isn't just the sheer absurdity of their plan, but the series of decisions that led them to that moment. What were they thinking? Was it a dare gone wrong? A desperate cry for attention? Or did they genuinely believe they could pull off a heist with a toy? Let's set the scene. It was a sunny Tuesday, just after lunch. The bank was relatively quiet, with only a few customers and the usual staff. Suddenly, the doors fly open, and in rush three figures, their faces obscured by ski masks. They shout, "Everybody, get down. This is a robbery." The initial shock and fear in the room were real. Bank robberies, no matter how they unfold, are terrifying experiences for everyone involved. The tellers, trained for such situations, immediately followed protocol. But then, one of the tellers noticed something odd. The gun being waved around was a vibrant neon green and orange. It looked suspiciously like the super soaker her own son had for summer pool parties. The lead robber, a 17-year-old later identified as the mastermind, pointed his water gun at the head teller and demanded she fill a duffel bag with money. The tension in the room was thick, but it was quickly being replaced by a sense of utter disbelief. One customer, an elderly gentleman who had seen his fair share of life, reportedly let out a small chuckle. He thought it was a prank, maybe for a local TV show. The teller, a woman named Susan, kept her composure. She looked at the teenager, then at the water gun, and then back at his eyes, which were visible through the mask's holes. She saw not malice, but a misguided, nervous kid. This is where the story takes another turn. Instead of panicking or blindly handing over cash, Susan did something unexpected. She calmly asked, "Honey, is that a water gun?" The question hung in the air. The teenager froze. His bravado seemed to evaporate instantly. He stammered something incoherent, his voice cracking. "Okay." His two accomplices, who were even younger, looked at each other, clearly panicked. High Claire, their grand heist was falling apart before it had even truly begun. It was the moment the fantasy they had built up crashed head-on with reality. The police were, of course, on their way. An employee had silently triggered the alarm the moment the teens entered. But before officers arrived, the situation inside the bank escalated in the most bizarre way possible. Head teller, Susan, started talking to the lead teen. She spoke to him not as a criminal, but as a concerned adult. She asked him why he was doing this, what was going on in his life that made him think this was a good idea. It was a masterclass in de-escalation, fueled by a mix of bravery and motherly instinct. The teenager, overwhelmed, finally broke down. He took off his mask and started talking. He explained that his family was facing eviction, and he felt a desperate pressure to do something, anything, to help. He and his friends had watched too many heist movies and, in their juvenile minds, concocted this plan. Thinking it would be a victimless crime if they used a fake gun. They didn't want to hurt anyone. They just wanted the money. It was a story of desperation, poor judgment, and a complete misunderstanding of how the real world works. His friends followed suit, taking off their masks, tears streaming down their faces. By the time the police arrived, sirens wailing, they walked into a scene they could never have anticipated. Instead of a tense standoff, they found 3 teenagers sitting on the floor, crying, with a bank teller comforting them, and a bright green water gun lying discarded nearby. The customers were shaken, but unharmed. The bank hadn't lost a single dollar. It was the strangest, and perhaps saddest, bank robbery attempt in the town's history. So, what happened to these would-be robbers? Legally, they were in serious trouble. Attempting to rob a bank is a federal offense, regardless of the weapon used. The act of creating fear and demanding money is what constitutes the crime. However, the circumstances were so unusual that the legal system had to take a closer look. The fact that they used a water gun, their young age, and their immediate remorse and cooperation all played a role. The community was divided. Some felt they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law to send a message. Others, like Susan the teller, advocated for leniency and help, not harsh punishment. The judge in the case faced a difficult decision. He acknowledged the seriousness of the crime and the fear it caused. But he also saw 3 scared kids who had made a monumental mistake out of desperation. The teens were ultimately sentenced to extensive community service, mandatory counseling for them and their families, and a period of probation. The lead teen's family was connected with social services to help them with their housing crisis. Its goal was rehabilitation, not just punishment. The court recognized that sending these kids to a juvenile detention center would likely do more harm than good. This story serves as a powerful, albeit strange, lesson. It highlights the impact of poverty and desperation on young minds. It shows how easily fantasy, fueled by movies and media, can blur the lines of reality. But it also shows the power of human connection and empathy. Susan, the teller, could have reacted with pure fear. Instead, her calm and compassionate response changed the entire outcome of that day. She saw a person in crisis, not just a criminal. Her actions may have saved those boys from a much darker future. It's a reminder that sometimes the most effective tool we have in a crisis is not a weapon, but a word of understanding. Of course, not every dangerous situation can or should be handled this way. The safety of everyone involved is always the top priority. But this specific, bizarre case of the water gun bank robbery makes you think. It makes you wonder about the stories behind the headlines and the complex human beings involved in them. It's a tale of foolishness, fear, and ultimately, a surprising moment of grace. Thank you for watching this incredible story with us. What do you think about the teller's actions and the judge's decision? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing your perspectives. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that explores the stranger side of life. See you in the next video.